Witkowski will get to it along the left wing. Going to be given away to shot. He scores! Bradly Nadeau, his first NHL goal. He wrists it past Riddick, and it's 1-0 Carolina. Now the Islanders get one out in front. Bussi makes the save. Oh dear, Bussi, it was Kyle Palmieri all alone in front, and Bussi having none of it. He took his candy. Andrei Svechnikov flying through, and he scores! He never broke stride. Oh, that is the magic. Andrei Svechnikov, his second goal of the season. He scored in 2 straight, and Mr. Svechnikov might be back in the neighborhood.
Oh, I would certainly declare Andrei Svechnikov back in business. Very good game from Andrei, 2 in a row. This one was better than the last one, and I said that before we scored the goal. Hi, everybody. It's the Canes Corner podcast. I am Adam Gold, and I thank you very much for spending some of what's left of your Thursday evening with me as the Hurricanes beat the Islanders tonight by a 6-2 score. A lot of good stuff to talk about. Some not so good stuff to talk about that we will get to. And maybe we should probably start with it simply because, it's kind of been par for the course in the early part of this season. And Seth Jarvis left the game late after blocking a shot. He had been kind of hobbled earlier in the period when he was knocked over, I believe, by Scott Mayfield a couple of times. That looked normal. Blocking the shot and using your left heel to do it does not look normal. And hopefully that's not too bad. But here was the question and answer about Seth to Rod Brindamore.
Jarvis, okay after leaving.
Yeah, that doesn't look great. I got to be honest. So we won't know tomorrow, but he's not feeling great at this moment. So hopefully it won't be, serious, but doesn't look good.
All right, man. Well, that's bad, right? The head coach not happy about it. We already have Slavin and Miller and Gostisbehere and Robinson and Carrier sitting behind me on press row. We don't want that. We certainly don't want number 24 up there as well. Hurricanes have a game in Boston on Saturday at 1 o'clock. But you're thinking about really the whole season. You're thinking about, for him, you're thinking about the Olympics. You're thinking about the fact that he has become arguably Carolina's best forward in every situation. And just a fearless, competitive player. You certainly don't want to be without him for any length of time, but we'll wait until tomorrow, see what the Hurricanes, what kind of information the Canes give us. I will say this, they're not forthcoming with injury information. I mean, if you don't have to be, I get it, but it would certainly be nice to have some more definitive ideas of what the deal is with Slavin or Miller, Gostisbehere. We just really don't know. So we'll have to wait and see on Seth Jarvis. But man, if he's out for any length of time, that is a huge hole to fill in your lineup. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. You should check him out. All right, so let's go through some things in the game. And there's really not much to say about Seth, right? That line didn't score. I didn't think they were bad. I just think they didn't score. And a lot of other things, a lot of other people did. And that's okay. So let's start in goal with Brandon Bussi. And there's different levels of this story, right? So the Hurricanes play 6 preseason games. We see, did we see Kochetkov? I don't think we might have seen him. I don't even remember at this point. It's so long ago. But we saw Miftakov twice. Didn't like him. I don't think the Hurricanes did. We saw a little bit of Nikita Kwap. We saw Caden Primo a couple of times. I thought he was fine. We saw Freddie Anderson a couple of times. We didn't see Brandon Bussi. Because he wasn't in the organization yet. It was, I believe, the day after the Hurricanes played their final preseason game that they claimed him off of waivers from Florida because they suspected that when they tried to send Caden Primo to the minor leagues, that they might have a problem, and they lost him. So they claimed, again, the day before, they claimed Brandon Bussi, who had spent the last 3 full seasons in the Bruins organization in the minor leagues. He was in Providence. And he played pretty well. Each year it was like the numbers dropped a little bit, but still very credible. And he's a big body, 27 years old, and Carolina needed a backup just in case. Because Kochekov's, he's got some injury issues. We know Freddie's got injury issues. We're probably going to need 3, maybe even 4 goalies this year. Still don't know if Carolina has a 4th goalie. So the Hurricanes claimed Brandon Bussi, and the whole plan was, keep him around as long as we can. In some ways, it reminds me of the first year of Rod Brindamore. You had Peter Mrazek. You had Scott Darling. Yeah, we all remember the Scott Darling era? Right, exactly. Darling is hurt. They need a goalie. They claim Curtis McElhinney from Toronto. The whole plan was to use McElhinney until Darling came back and then put him through waivers. Toronto probably reclaim him. Guess what? Right. Curtis McElhinney played too well. Hurricanes never put him back on waivers. Darling actually played a couple of games, I believe, in that first year. But ultimately, we know what happened. And the goaltending tandem became Mrazek and McElhinney. Well, Brandon Bussi has played too good to even expose to waivers at this point. So this is his 4th game. I think it was his best. 26 saves. Tons of great scoring chances for the Islanders, especially in the first period when they played their best. I think they had 7 high-danger chances in the first period of the game, which that's a lot. I mean, the Hurricanes had 7 too, but the Hurricanes put 3 goals on the board. So the Islanders had 7 high-danger chances, according to Natural Stat Trick, in all situations in the first period. They had 4 the rest of the way. Carolina's game got better. But when Carolina's game was a little loose, Brandon Bussi was at his best. He was fantastic tonight. And now the Hurricanes, by the way, this is a good problem to have. Kochetkov's not quite yet ready to come back. He's not far away. He's already practiced once. Bussi is playing well. And now you've got, in their minds, 3 goaltending options. And we have no idea how it's going to work out. But I cannot imagine them exposing Bussi to waivers unless he's got a contract in hand. Is that contract going to be an NHL contract? Might be. Is that contract going to be a multi-year deal? Might be. I don't know what they're going to do, how to protect themselves when it comes to Brandon Bussi. But 26 saves tonight, 8 of them high danger. His save percentage is like about .920 so far through 4 starts. But it's not even about what those raw numbers are. Those numbers are good. They're not gaudy. It's not like it's .960 or something like that. He hasn't really stood on his head. In fact, in the first 2 starts he made, he allowed a bad goal in each start. He did. He didn't in Dallas. None of the goals are on him. In fact, 2 of the goals were off us. But tonight is a different story if Bussi doesn't play the way he played in the first period. Flat out. Which for me, in the arena, I gave him my 1st star. I know they wanted Andrei to get the star. Great. I love it. They gave Bussi the 2nd star, but I thought Brandon Bussi won the game in the first period. He at least gave Carolina a chance because, and this is not to say that no other goalie would have saved those. They were wonderful saves, but somebody had to make him. Freddie could have done the same thing. I would have given him the first star based on the way he played in the first period. Bussi really was that good. And now, like, I'll just throw a quick scenario at you. Maybe you give Bussi a 2-year deal. The first year is a two-way deal. The second year is an NHL deal. And maybe that second year is for a little bit more money than somebody wants to spend. Maybe as opposed to making it a league minimum contract, which, by the way, starting next season, I believe will be $1 million. Maybe that's $2 million. I don't know. But the Hurricanes got to do something to be able to keep him in the organization. The other thing is you could certainly send Pyotr Kochetkov to Chicago on a conditioning stint. I don't know how long that could last. Won't last very long. But you can send him to Chicago to play some games just to get sharp before you bring him back and put him on the ice. You could certainly try something like that. But I think for the short term, Hurricanes are going to carry 3 goalies. And it's never ideal for practice time and even game time. But right now, I think they're going to carry 3 goalies. And I said this might have been Tripp offline, like in between periods as I was getting ready to go back on. This is no slight to Pyotr Kochetkov. It's kind of hard to see him playing better than what we've seen out of Brandon Bussi, just given what we know about Pyotr. So Carolina's goaltending situation right now, it's a little muddy, but it's good mud. It's the mud that cleans you. Freddie has played. I don't think Freddie's been great, but I'm not worried about Freddie. Freddie will be fine. They need to know that they have reliable, support for Anderson. And I think Brandon Bussi so far through 4 games has screamed no worse than reliable, than good enough behind your number one in Anderson. We don't know what we'll get from Pyotr when he eventually does play. And I think it still would be a fair question to say, or comment to say, that we're not 100% sure what we're going to get out of Brandon Bussi. But everything we have seen says pretty solid. And that's important. Very, very important for the Hurricanes. So that's part 1. Part 2. And coming off a loss, and you're trying to find silver linings in a loss, there were 2 huge silver linings, I thought, Tuesday against Vegas. And I thought today, the 2 silver linings that we saw really showed up again and in some ways validated what we saw on Tuesday. I'll say this about Andrei Svechnikov. I know he scored the first goal against Vegas. He had a couple of shots on net early and played a very good game, even took 2 penalties. Andrei was better tonight. I think significantly better tonight. I have no idea if it's the fact that he scored a goal. I don't know what the impetus for it was. But I thought Andrei, while he didn't throw his body around tonight, I'd like to see a little bit more physicality from Andrei. But he had a bunch of shot attempts. He had a few on net. He eventually did score the goal. He was a +3. It was nice to see. And he makes the play on the Jordan Martinook goal. There are certain things that Andrei is either the best on Carolina at or among the best. And he is great at puck retrievals. I think Jackson Blake is the best on the team at that, but Andrei is awesome at it. And while I don't know if this is technically a retrieval, he goes back to play the puck just inside his offensive blue line. I thought that in and of itself was a good play. And then he makes the smart play, which Andrei doesn't always do, where he turns and finds a little seam to get the puck all the way to the net. I guess it didn't go all the way to the net because it hit something of Jordan Stahl's and then went behind David Riddick. And there, don't you know, Jordan Martinook to get his second goal in as many games. And he was just able to usher it across the line, and Carolina had, at that point, a 3-0 lead. But Andrei makes the play, and then he eventually does get the goal. But I just thought Andrei was a good player again tonight. Noticeable, and that's what you want. Andrei can impact the game without being on the score sheet. As long as he is physical and active and engaged, that's what you need. The goals, the assists, the points, all that stuff will come. Even more physicality will come as long as he's engaged. And this is now 2 games in a row where Andrei has definitely been into it. And that is a player that makes Carolina better. Flat out makes Carolina better. And if you quickly fold into this mix that Carrier and Robinson are down, I mean, that's a good chunk of Carolina's size. They need Andrei. They need him to be the physical presence that he can be. So good sign to see Andrei playing well. The other part of our silver lining from Tuesday was Alexander Nikishin. On Tuesday, played 27 and a half minutes. Tonight, only 20 and a half minutes. You know, he didn't have to play that much longer because Carolina had a lead. And when Jackson Blake scored to make it 4-1, I think Rod just said, all right, I'm going to spread it out. And he pretty much did. The most anybody played on the blue line was Jalen Chatfield. I'll get to Chatfield in a second. But it was good to see Nikishin play the way he played. He had an assist. He had 4 hits, a handful of shot attempts. Could have more. I'd like to see him shoot the puck more. He was a +3. Stood up for his goaltender in the first period when Kyle McLean, after a shot through traffic that Bussi gloved and melted down, Kyle McLean just kind of whacked him on the glove, which, honestly, I ain't mad. That's hockey. But when somebody hits your goalie, whether it's after the whistle or not, when somebody hits your goalie, somebody whacks him in the glove with the stick. I like the fact that Alexander Nikishin said, I got you back. And he went after, who was it again? Totally forgot. Doesn't matter. It was Kyle McLean. He went after McLean. They both ended up going to the penalty box for matching minors for roughing, and that's fine. The first of 2 matching minors for roughing tonight. But appreciated the way Nikishin handled himself tonight. Also, loved the fact that he had to take on a pretty difficult assignment because the Stahl line was always going to have Bo Horvat's line, and that's where Nikishin and Sean Walker were. And they were both very good. Walker was a +3. Nikishin was a +3. Carolina should be pretty excited by the last 2 games of Alexander Nikishin. And I just want to reiterate this one point that I've made over and over and over and over and over again. Generally, as fans, a few things happen when as it pertains to prospects. We always overrate prospects. I don't know where Alexander Nikishin slots in among the top young defensemen right now in the sport. There are a ton of blue liners getting paid massive amounts of money. And I'm not suggesting that Nikishin won't get paid by this organization and soon. But we hadn't seen anything in terms of a performance, if we are being honest. And again, with prospects, that doesn't always happen. But we hadn't seen that guy, and I'm not sure we have yet either, But we hadn't seen anything really close to being that guy since he started playing. Playoffs last year, you can't even judge that because it's an impossible debut for somebody who was already going to have to adjust to the speed of the NHL. Different league, the KHL. So the fact that he was so good last night when he had to be, with all the roster issues, the available players that Rod Brind'Amour had, and the fact is that he was probably better tonight in less time, but Carolina didn't have to be a desperate hockey team tonight. That doesn't mean they don't work hard, but they did. So in some ways, it's a more difficult task than to know that everything is desperation. Everybody's in that mode, and you just fit in. I thought Nikishin stood out today for being very good. And what it also tells me is that when the Hurricanes, or I should say if, not when, if the Hurricanes ever get healthy on defense, and I don't know how it's going to shake out in terms of who's going to play with who, which lefty's going to play as offside. Right now, you would say it would be Nikishin with Gostisbehere on his right, and Chatfield and Miller and Slavin and Walker. But at some point, Nikishin's going to be in a top four role. I mean, I think we have to just assume that that's going to happen, right? And Carolina has a lot of good things coming. Right now, they have a lot of guys out. But Nikishin was very, very good. Still want to see that shot just a few more times. We need to get some of them on net. You're going to hurt somebody, but just don't hurt our guys. So you've got the performance of Bussi, Andrei, and Nikishin. I thought the power play looked very good. The one Carolina got. Hurricanes have now had 2 minutes and 2 seconds of power play time combined in the last 2 games. This power play did not score, but it looked pretty dangerous. In fact, probably should have scored. Didn't. Aho, Jarvis, trying to think how many other people had good opportunities, like in tight on the power play. I think the Hurricanes had 7 shots on goal on their one power play, either 5 or 7, one of the two. It was more than 0, which we have seen a lot of over the opening 2.5, 3 weeks of the season. So, yay. The power play looked very good. Didn't score, now 4 for 31, but it was hard to give them too much credit for the power play goal they scored against Vegas. All right. So the power play looks good. And again, we're still kind of worried about Seth Jarvis. We talked about the depth on the blue line. Now let's talk about, and we'll have to wrap this up here, but now let's talk about what Carolina will look. Most lines aren't really trios. Most. I think Rod Brind'Amour is more about duos and then finding a compatible third wheel, if you will. And right now, this team is Aho and Jarvis. This team is Stankoven and Blake, Martinook and Stahl. No Jarvis. That means you got to find the right player to play with Aho. For me, right now, it's not Ehlers. I'm not saying Ehlers has to come off that line, but it's not Ehlers. And I don't know who that player is going to be. Part of me thinks it should be Blake. I remember the chemistry they had last year. Bradly Nadeau is also going to get a fair crack at something. And I wonder if Nadeau could play with Stankoven and whoever they play on the left side of that. Maybe it's Taylor Hall. Maybe we go to Svechnikov with Aho and Blake, I don't know how it's going to shake out. But Carolina's going to have to move some pieces around if Seth Jarvis is lost for any length of time. Let's hope that that is not the case. But things that we got to think about. And maybe this is an opening for Nadeau. Remember when Rod Brindamore, after they sent Nadeau down, he said, he'll come up depending on who we need. Well, frankly, they've needed a lot of bodies. So Nadeau would be a logical call-up if you lose Jarvis for any length of time. So I would imagine that this means that Nadeau, goal that he scored tonight aside, I actually thought he played fairly well tonight, aside from the goal. So that's also an encouraging sign. So we'll see how Carolina's going to reconfigure things if Jarvis is out. Nadeau is sort of a like for like, except that Jarvis is a well-rounded player. I mean, again, he's arguably your best forward. And those guys don't get replaced all that easy. So, fortunately, Carolina is deeper now than they've been in the past. And they've got guys that they can go to, like a Nadeau. And I don't know if this means that we're going to see Giovanni Smith. Obviously, he is not like for like. But we might see another guy get called up, depending on how long Seth Jarvis is going to be out. Think about this. Carolina had one extra body today that could play. And that was Dominic Fensori, the defenseman. Because Carolina put Riley back in the game and brought up Charles Alexis Legault. I thought Legault played pretty well tonight. This was the game that I've been waiting for. No mistakes, couple of hits. Like to see a little bit more physicality. But I thought Legault was a good player tonight. I thought Joel Nystrom was also a good player tonight. I thought he had struggled the last couple. But I thought he was a good player tonight. Oh, and welcome back to Taylor Hall, who I didn't see the game. I've mentioned this several times. I didn't see the game in Dallas, so I can't critique anybody for how that game was played, what the result was, all of that. But for me, on Tuesday, Hall was no good. And in the first period, maybe the first period and a half tonight, I would say the same thing. No good. Bad decision-making with the puck. We had a couple of instances like that tonight. However, the play he makes in the third to free up Jackson Blake for the goal, that's an elite play. Gets the puck in traffic along the wall, and he skates to safety, and then he makes a dynamite move, not around the rookie for the Islanders, Matthew Schaefer, but he leaves him flat-footed as he makes a move and cuts inside. Now, Matthews is out of position because he's not goal side. He's not really defending Hall, but Hall, with speed, because he's still got some of that, he forces the defense back, and then he leaves a little drop pass for Jackson Blake, who used Schaefer as a screen to beat David Riddick, and that was the goal that I thought ended the game. I thought Carolina put this one in the win column with that goal. And great goal by Blake, better play by Hall. And I thought the last period was Hall's best, and I'm interested, I mean, we'll never know why things, why players suddenly become like their true selves again. But I honestly, that was he was so good after that play that it made you forget almost how bad he had been the previous 4.5 periods. So it's good to have Taylor Hall back. I still don't think that as a steady diet you can have Hall in your top 6. But when I said that to Rod today, it wasn't specifically about Taylor Hall. I asked him about moving Andrei into a top 6 role. And then I went, just caught myself. I know you don't number the lines, and his favorite line is Stahl, Martinook, and whoever they're playing with. They were I thought, very good tonight. Martinook was, I thought, 2 games in a row now, spectacular. On the low, Jordan Stahl's their most important player. Can't lose him. Stahl and Slavin are their most important players. Stahl is the identity, blah, blah, blah. Carolina's been without Jaccob Slavin now for 8 games. And they've been without Andrei Miller for 5? And now they've played 4 without Shane Gostisbehere. So, Carolina's got some injury issues, but it's cool to see that a Taylor Hall can still impact the game in a positive way. And Carolina's going to have to figure out how to get around some of these injuries. We won't know about Seth Jarvis I'm not even sure we're going to find out tomorrow unless what we find out is either really bad or not bad at all. Like if it's just mid, we're just going to hear day to day or week to week is my guess. We will see, I'm sure, Freddie Anderson in Boston, given health. Of course, with Freddie, you never know. But other all things considered, I thought a pretty good performance by Carolina. Nadeau's first. Mike Reilly, dynamite play on the shorthanded goal, taking it down the left, taking a handcuffed David Riddick, and then he follows the play like you're supposed to. Follow your shot. That's what they say in basketball. Followed a shot behind the net, and he wrapped it around for the goal to make it 2. Martinook in the right place at the right time after Andrei creates the play. Martinook shovels it home. Jackson Blake's third early in the third period to give Carolina what I believe to be the lead that ended the game at 4-1. Then Svechnikov and Stankoven round out the scoring. There's a lot of good there. There is a lot of good there. Now, Carolina, who played, I thought, their best hockey in the second and third periods, at least in this game, in the second and third periods. Now it's about taking that up another level. It's about getting your offense more fluid, a little bit more dangerous, and maybe that will coincide with Nick Ehlers' first goal. We pretty much have handled all the first, right? Keandre Miller got that out of the way in the first game. We're going to need Nick Ehlers to show up here pretty soon. You didn't sign him to this deal for him to not produce. Although excellent pass to Logan Stankoven for the goal that made it 6-2. And that'll do it for us. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. Appreciate all of you hanging out. We didn't do a shout out. I'm sorry. We started late. They had 75 freaking faceoffs in the game. Carolina not good in the faceoff circle tonight. So didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time pre-pod to kind of figure this whole thing out. But I do appreciate all of you hanging on and watching. Always subscribe to this. Do me a favor. Don't do you a favor. Do it for me. Subscribe to the Canes Corner podcast, not only on YouTube right here, but wherever you get your podcasts. And then, you'll be alerted. Is that how it happens? I don't know. But thank you very much for spending the time. And we'll see everybody after the Boston game started. Game starts at 1:00. Still played one game at 7. One game at 7 through 10 games. My gosh. 1:00 starts Saturday afternoon. So we'll see you here on the podcast sometime late Saturday afternoon, maybe even into dusk. Until then, hope everybody has a good one. Good night.